Our first twist is a twist.
Wait, dude, no! Oh, God! I may not survive this!
Hello and welcome to the review of the Season 3 premiere, and before I start, man, it's good to be back. iCarly is back, the best time of year, isn't it? Now, this episode is called iBuckled, and up until the very end of the episode, I didn't understand why, but now I do. The synopsis for this episode reads, Carly dives into work to distract herself from Freddy by working with Paul on a sizzle reel for a Carly-centric reality show, but Paul pushes Carly's love triangle to create more drama. Now, with that being said, let's get into this review. In our first scene of the season, we're in the Benson household, and there is so much going on. Wedding rings, 2 wedding proposals, a painfully awkward Carly, and of all things, Lubert. Wedding rings and proposals. So, who's getting married? For a second it seems like it'll be Freddy, but soon after we get this awkward fake-out proposal, we actually find out it's Marissa, and good for her. And she, I repeat, she is the one who proposes to Lubert, and honestly, that's really wholesome, and an ultimate Easter egg to their short-lived relationship in the original show. I think Lubert is going to be a great regular to have as well. His outrageous reactions and sounds are really funny and entertaining. It'll be fun to see his relationship with the rest of our gang going forward, considering last season's court case and, their whole history. Also, we get to find out that Season 3 starts 3 weeks after the Season 2 cliffhanger, and we find out that Carly and Freddy have not spoken since. Rather, they are avoiding each other. I don't think we've ever seen either of them this awkward, and then Pearl walks in and Carly loses it completely, chugging down as much alcohol as she can find. She is clearly not fine. Now, moving on to the second scene, or really the next 2 scenes, we get to see the aftermath of that first scene, with Carly paired up with Harper and Freddy paired up with Spencer, and in these conversations we get to see some gaps filled in for the last 3 weeks that we've missed. Also, Freddy not only has the Carly situation going on, but he's also just witnessed the engagement of his mom to Lubert. Even being all grown up, it must have some effect on him, seeing his mom get married after having her all to himself for 20 plus years. But furthermore, in these conversations we find out that after our Season 2 cliffhanger, Freddy runs after Pearl and convinces her to drop everything and just drive. Unbeknownst to Freddy, Carly, in the meantime, cried all night expecting Freddy to come back and talk to her, and it seems like that's how Carly has spent the last 3 weeks. And there was no communication at all between the two other than a text message sent 2 days later after the incident saying, "Hitting the open road with my GF, weed stack emoji." Now, that is brutal. Carly said that all she wanted that night was a conversation. Kind of a sad moment, honestly. In the meantime, Freddy tells Spencer that he wishes Carly wouldn't duck having a conversation, and of course, Spencer is on to him and says this.
You drove through 6 states and 3 sovereign indigenous areas in the same pair of underwear to get away from that exact conversation.
Love the humor so far in this season. Freddy also admits to having couples therapy 4 times a week with Pearl, so they're also definitely not fine. Spencer and Harper are definitely in on it. They see what's happening, and Harper suggests Carly go talk to Freddy. But what does Carly do? Oh yes, the usual of course. The usual course of action of setting up an entire TV show to avoid a conversation with Freddy. She needs a distraction. She needs to get busy. We'll get into that, but most important takeaway from this scene is that when Harper asks Carly if she has feelings for Freddy, she says this.
I shouldn't have to think about it. I want someone that I am crazy about. Someone that makes my knees buckle.
Remember this for later. Wink wink. In our 4th scene, we get to find out what her subplot will be for this episode. Millicent kissing up to Marissa and Lubert in order to be the maid of honor. And we also learned that Lubert has a 0.3 star rating on Uber, which quite frankly is hilarious. Then we get Paul and Carly at Shea What. Of course, at her request, she wants a new project, and after all, Paul is her manager, and a pretty good one at that, so he gets things going. Paul suggests TV, and of course, Carly has had a run-in with TV in the original, and let's just say it didn't quite work out, but Carly highlights that she likes to have control in her projects and has desires to be liked. Well, I mean, as a side note, doesn't that sum up the first 6 years of iCarly pretty well, the original? But anyway, there's a reason why iCarly rarely expanded their crew past 3. But of course, right now, Carly is desperate, so she agrees to try TV again. She tells him way too much about the Freddy situation, and of course, like everyone else, Paul reads right through it. And then the reality show is born, House of Shay. We then jump straight into the production of House of Shay, and we get the return of a character from last season, Sunny, the airhead influencer, the influencer fight club girl. Well, either way, she is cast as Carly's sister in this show, and we get plenty of funny comments on the realities of reality shows. Also, we have Spencer, who is going to be the fantastic host. Now, hopping over to our subplot, Millicent continues her goal of becoming the maid of honor, and there isn't much to take away here other than how sweet Lubert's reaction is to being called a dad. Also, it's somewhat surprising how accepting Freddy is to all of this, but even here he manages to be emasculated.
It'll be nice to have a strong male role model in my life.
I taught you how to hunt.
Next, we are back at the set of House of Shay, a show which sprung from nothing, which is also about absolutely nothing, as Carly makes up some argument about how her 11th generation sister or cousin or whatever is messing with her peanut butter, but oh, of course, Paul has a diabolical plan to fix this. He has pleaded for Freddy and Pearl to join the show. Get ready for a different kind of disaster, the kind that is good for TV, and oh, all of a sudden Carly really wants out. Paul then gets the 3 of them alone into hanging silks, which was unexpectedly quite funny, and also I feel this scene perfectly highlights the similarities between Carly and Freddy. But Paul of course has written every excruciating detail about Carly's frustrations over Carly and starts announcing them to the 3 of them, which then forces Carly to attack him physically. Of course, all of this while Spencer is spectacularly hosting the show. Alas, now we have our climax. After that disaster, it was finally time for Carly and Freddy to have a conversation about what was really going on. But before we get to that, we have to conclude our subplot. Millicent is quite disheartened because she will not be the maid of honor, but to her surprise and heartwarmingly, Marissa and Lubert have planned a whole announcement to her with a band of some sort that she'll be the officer of the marriage, which I have to say is pretty cute. Could be a happy little family and a great redemption for Lubert if this marriage goes through, which is a topic for another time. But now, the real climax of this episode. If there's one thing we can take away from this episode, it's scene 12. It starts with Carly explaining to Harper what a disaster the reality show was, and then Freddy comes in, and he suggests to Carly they finally talk. She tries to avoid it, but with no luck. Carly explains that over the years she's thought extensively about whether they should or shouldn't be together, and that she shouldn't have to think about it. Freddy agrees. Then she says one thing that she never has to think about is Freddy and Carly. Freddy agrees. What Freddy and Carly is, that's a good question. I need to think about it, but then the most important dialogue, Freddy has to go, but he says,
And no matter what awkward phase of Carly Freddydom we're in, no matter who we're dating, or how little we know about what we're signing up for, I am always going to be there for you. I promise.
Those golden words we just witnessed created the moment Carly knew that Freddy was the one. She buckled. She had completely fallen for Freddy. In our closing scene, we get to see House of Shay. Paul has stitched together something and cast himself as Carly's brother. Pretty funny. And then as the last line, we find out that every network has passed on the show. Thank God. Now that we've gone through what happened in this episode, let's do some key takeaways, take a closer look at each character, and find the Easter eggs. Those of you who have watched these reviews know the drill. Let's start with the characters, starting of course with Carly. Carly appears in this episode as we've never seen her before. It's always been Freddy chasing Carly in the past, but now we have the reversal, and I think it's great writing. Carly will finally get to experience what Freddy felt all those years. All those years where Carly and Sam were gawking over other boys when Freddy was there all along. We can also see that Carly hasn't been working for the last 3 weeks and spends most of her time being sad. Thank God she has Harper to talk to. Another thing, Carly was really funny this episode. I think Miranda's really bringing her A game, like for example with this line.
If I don't get a new project immediately, I'm going to burn this city to the ground.
Lastly, Carly got paid $200 an hour for the reality TV show, just an interesting thing to think about. Next, let's talk about the man of the hour, Freddy. Freddy surely has a storm of things going on. His mom is getting married with a former enemy, Pearl is a high-maintenance girlfriend with whom he goes to couples therapy 4 times a week with, and now his childhood longtime crush is finally getting feelings for him, and also he's a parent, not to mention he has a business to manage. It makes sense that he doesn't even try to protest the marriage between his mom and Lubert because he simply can't deal with it. How Freddy navigates this season will truly be interesting, and I'm excited to see it. Lastly, I love that he and Spencer have such a great friendship, just like the original series. Which brings me to Spencer, and I don't have much to say about him. Spencer is always fun, and I love how he hosted the reality TV show and then offered to play Carly. I think that's hilarious, but also I maybe was missing a little bit of that Carly-Spencer relationship, like a heart-to-heart talk about Freddy. I think he understands it better than anyone, but I'm sure we'll see that soon. Next, let's talk about Millicent, who is as always up to something, and this time around she wants to be the maid of honor of her grandma's wedding, and in the end she gets it all and more. I guess I am surprised at how accepting Millicent is of Lubert, but Lubert looks genuinely happy to be part of this family, and that's actually kind of wholesome. And lastly, for our main cast, Harper. Harper proves season after season what a great, supportive friend she is to Carly. Not being too nice with her, always trying to motivate and push her to take the right actions. Seems like Carly has been dishing out a lot of emotions over the last 3 weeks to her, but at the same time, it does seem like Carly tries to hide some things from Harper. Perhaps their friendship has further to go as well. That's our main cast, but we have a few returning characters to talk about in this episode. Lubert is back, and seemingly he's found his spot in this show. I find him hilarious. He cracks me up, and like I mentioned earlier, he should have fantastic interactions with Carly and co. So much history that's just bound to come back around. Lastly, he truly seems happy, which I'm glad to see. We all know how much of a toll his last serious romantic relationship took on him. Stay good, Lubert, and oh my, the Uber rating. Next, we have Lubert's new partner, Marissa. I didn't take Marissa as a big romantic, but alas, she has proved me wrong. Fairly expectedly, now that I think about it, Marissa wears the pants in the relationship, and, you know, she is a control freak after all, so I guess it makes sense. But yes, she proposed to Lubert, and strangely, their own weirdnesses come together in a nice way. Most importantly, they do truly look happy together. Next is a sneaky one this episode, Paul. I honestly really didn't expect Paul to return this season, but he has, and he's a great addition as a recurring character. Now, of course his job is to push Carly's relevancy, but throwing her under the bus like that with Freddy and Pearl, funny, but also not cool. Lastly, and briefly, one that I don't think we'll be seeing much anymore, which is Sunny. If it wasn't apparent last season, Sunny is a total airhead, and of course her purpose is to poke fun at modern day influencers, and she fills that role. It's still funny to me how she was part of a modern day fight club of sorts. That's a little bit about every character. Moving on, in every review I have a little section for Easter eggs I noticed in the episode. This episode didn't have too many, but here they are. Carly and Freddy both mentioned how Carly was replaced by a dinosaur last time she tried TV, namely in the episode called iCarly Saves TV, which was all the way back in season 1 of the original. Great callback. Funny enough, the original episode alluded to the death of TV, which is something that has been actively happening with the move to streaming. that's all for Easter eggs, other than of course the callbacks to Creddy and Lubert. Lastly for this review now, key takeaways and final thoughts. First of all, it's clear to me that Freddy and Pearl are not going to last, as they're currently in toxic waters, with couples therapy and absolutely no mutual trust. And since Carly is now finally realizing her feelings for Freddy, I think we're going to go in that direction pretty soon. Second, at least for now, I love the expanded cast. It reminds me of the original iCarly where we'd have frequent recurring characters, and right now you can really feel new life in the show like a breath of fresh air. It feels more relaxed and the characters can interact more fluidly, and on the same tangent, the show is funnier. What I love to see is the levels do seem to keep going higher and higher with every season, and I'm more excited than ever to watch the next episode. That about wraps up this review. Lengthy, I know. Let me know if you do like them longer. Stay tuned for the weekly Q&A, predictions, and plenty more good content. This week, of course, we also have another episode to review, so stay tuned for all this content coming your way. I'm so glad it's iCarly season. Drop your questions and thoughts below, and some of them will feature in the Q&A this week. But for now, that's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon for episode 2.